Hello, and welcome back to Marketing with, well, this is going to be Facebook instead of just the Meta properties. Um, and so now we're going to talk really about the largest social network on the internet. So I've been teaching social media now for over 10 years, and if there's one thing that hasn't changed in all the years that I've done this, it's that Facebook is the biggest social network on the planet. Um, Now the numbers have changed because when I first did this, we were looking at about a billion and a half users, and now we have, by their own figures and by third-party figures, 3 billion monthly active users. That is almost half the world. If you think about how much of the world lives either without internet, in very distant parts of the planet, or people that just don't want to be online, that's a pretty staggering number. Um, the company was again. I mentioned this last video. Started, I believe, 2004. So this has been quite a run for the platform Facebook itself. Um, you think about who the competitors were when it first launched, and you think about the competitors even in the early 2010s, and they are all gone. The Facebook's biggest competitor originally was MySpace. That is no more. By 2011, 2012, Twitter became the number one competitor. Sure, it still exists, but it's nothing like what we knew 15 years ago. And today, it's hard to argue who their biggest competitor is because it's probably TikTok. But really, there is no one-to-one comparison for Facebook. It's just been around for too long. Now, when we look at Facebook from a personal perspective, I like to ask the big four who's. People like myself, I'm in my late 30s. I've had a Facebook account since I was in high school. And when I was in high school, I used Facebook a lot more. And when I was in college, I used Facebook a lot more. But over time, most of us millennials and a lot of Gen Xers and some Gen Zs, we created an account. We all have an account, but a lot of us don't really go on there very much. I personally haven't posted a meaningful post in years. I'll look at other people's posts. I'll engage with other people's posts. I might leave comments, but really, there are four big questions that people seem to look for answers to when they get onto Facebook. They want to know the gossipy updates on people's lives. Who got married? Who's gotten divorced? Who's had a baby? And who died? That's what they want to know. If you think about why people go onto Facebook, you may say like, "Oh, I want to connect with friends." Well, what does that mean? You don't go on there to see and gawk at their vacation photos. No, you don't care about that. You care about their major life events. Now, you could put other life events in here, like, hey, who graduated from college, who got a new job, who, different life milestones. But the big four that if you're over 25, that you're looking at here are these four things. Now, don't get me wrong, Facebook has become overly political over time. We will get there in a moment. But just from a strict friends level and an overarching view of why people are on Facebook, these are my big four questions. Now, if you want to think about the aspects of Facebook that people utilize, there are really three things. The marketplace, the buying and selling, that is it's number one among Gen Z. It's a big reason for why Gen Z uses and even creates Facebook accounts. And if you go on to the marketplace, a lot of times you'll see people selling or buying are also the youngest mass of Facebook users. But also, if you were to look at some generational use cases for Facebook, a lot of people use Messenger more than they use Facebook itself. Can't use Messenger without Facebook, so people are, it's become a common thing where someone logs into Facebook, they see they have a message, they click that, they leave the Facebook app, go to the Messenger app, and they communicate there. The same exists for WhatsApp, although WhatsApp is not required for Facebook. Those still are two mutually exclusive apps. They often are used as the two-factor authentication for getting into the reverse, into the opposite. So, I mean, if you look at these, right, it's commerce at the top, and then it's communication for those last two, and that's really become kind of like a microcosm of social media in general, right? You're there to either communicate with friends or buy or sell. We are becoming an even more entrepreneurial and monetizing society than we were 10 years ago, and social media has finally caught up to that. We will learn a lot more about this later in the TikTok section with social commerce, but for me, it's really interesting because marketplace now is really a major form of online purchasing and selling. You know, it's taking over eBay as a major platform. If you ask ChatGPT, like, hey, I have all these things that I need to sell. I have an online garage sale. Where should I sell it? ChatGPT and all the other AIs are going to say, oh, well, you can put it on Facebook Marketplace, and then you can also put it on eBay and also Nextdoor and all these other things. So Facebook's use case really evolving over time as consumption habits have changed. Now, when you log into Facebook, you see your feed, and you're going to see most likely four different things at the top. And I will give Facebook credit. Over the last couple of years, we have seen a shift from the top of the feed changing from ads and Facebook groups to now your closest friends. So when you log in, chances are you're going to see one of your close friends are at the top. You're not going to see an ad first. You're probably not going to see a group. You could if it's a big enough post. And you're definitely not going to see a page, your business page. Like that's almost guaranteed not going to be there. You'll see an update from a close friend. Now you may say like, hey, this is not a close friend of mine. This is like a secondary friend. But Facebook is going based off of how you have engaged with each other over time. I usually see updates from people that I don't talk to every day because the people that I talk to every day I don't post on Facebook all the time. But it's somebody who, like, for example, the person that I see a lot on Facebook whenever I log in is somebody who I used to work with about 5-10 years ago, and he's posting all the time on Facebook. And sometimes they get big engagements. And as a result, I often see that at the top of my feed. Now, they say top 3%. This is a figure I've seen from a couple of different algorithm hunters, as I like to call them. And that just means that your top 3% of your friends in terms of engagements are going to appear at the top. For me, my number one friend on Facebook is probably my wife or my parents or my siblings. And again, I don't see them because they don't post very much on Facebook, if ever. And if they do, there's a very, very small chance that I'm actually going to log on within a couple of days of that happening. Because part of this too is relevance and timeliness. If I post something on Facebook today and my brother logs on in 2 weeks, he's not going to see my post. Even if I got 1,000 likes, it's not going to pop up because it's not timely and relevant. Now, these other three parts of the quadrant here are the other things that are going to appear after the close friends. You're going to see Facebook groups. You're going to see pages that you don't follow, but you'll notice that their content oddly aligns with something you're interested in. And then eventually you'll see ads. Eventually, after you see those, at least friends, groups, and pages that you don't follow, then you'll probably see other friends of yours that might not be super close, but they're people that are there. You might see pages that you do follow eventually, and you're also going to see ads. So that's kind of the algorithm mix. You'll see a strip of reels mixed in there just because they like to promote that. And the idea of putting more video on Facebook continues to really climb become a bigger deal to the user interface, the UI. So I just wanted to, share as a business, if you are posting stuff onto Facebook, if it's news, if it's product updates, if it's people updates, you're not going to catch people right when they log on. They're going to have to scroll for a little bit before they see your stuff. Last slide for this second video, the demographics of Facebook. I think a lot of this is pretty straightforward. The baby boomer generation, they are the most active. They are also the most outspoken. If you look at trending posts for pages or for people, a lot of times you're going to see comments from people who might be a little bit older generation. When we say boomers, by the way, technically this begins at these are people that are what, 64 years old now and up. So we are also seeing this from Gen X. It's really anybody over. It's millennials are kind of the cutoff where you're seeing a huge drop in average Facebook engagement between millennials and Gen X and baby boomers. And the theory behind this is that, again, millennials are still connected on Facebook to all these people from high school and from college. And some of these people we probably haven't talked to in 20, maybe 30 years. And we know that in the back of our minds. We're not going to say anything outlandish on social media because it is a perception and a personal public relations thing. However, there are more millennials and Gen Z on Facebook than there are of all the other generations. And when you look at this, you wouldn't think that. But again, it all comes back to who engages the most. And when you think about your brand on social media, it doesn't matter. It honestly doesn't matter how many followers you have. It matters who's engaged and who is actually connecting with the content, and who is the content resonating with. That maybe it's boomers, maybe it's millennials, maybe it's Gen Z. Just in terms of the sheer numbers, kind of that's how this is how they lie. Millennials have the largest generation on Facebook. Gen Z is right there. Baby boomers are right there as well. Gen X also right there, but they are there in bigger numbers. The last thing I wanted to mention here and point out is if you were to look up, hey, what's the average income per year of the average Facebook user, which is again like half the world, you're seeing a number of $75,000. So this seems pretty high, and it is high. And that is because the way that data is being collected, remember, this is a very approximate rough figure. Because of the skews and age gaps and age groups, you end up with a number that's somewhat inflated. I would not use this number. This number pretty much exists here to tell you don't use this as a driving force in what to promote or how to promote your brand on Facebook. Sometimes executives, they like to look at social media as like, hey, like where are the people that have money? Like we should promote on LinkedIn because they probably have more money. We should go on Facebook because they're older and they have more money. And that may be the case, but that doesn't mean that they're going to engage with business content at all. And it certainly doesn't mean they're going to make a purchase. It's got to be a lot more nuanced than that. And it's something that I think was worth bringing up because I've seen this in textbooks. I've seen this in discussions. I've seen this in blog posts, and it's just not a number that I personally trust because I don't think it tells the whole story. I think similar to a lot of economic data, I think it's important to look at the median figures because there are certainly some outliers that are skewing this number. And if you think about the people that are actively using the platform and that are actively engaging with a brand, those are probably telling a different story. Whether it's higher or lower, that remains to be seen. That's for a brand to figure out. But I don't think making decisions based on annual income is the best idea for brands. And so we'll pause there. Next up, we're going to look at Facebook posts, the anatomy of a Facebook post, and go into more of the strategy for brands. This was really just the setup and the exposition for Facebook.